The film has been, selected as part of the First Blood strand of programming. How are you feeling about the screening?
I'm chuffed personally. Just Fright Fest was always our first choice festival because I think it's the biggest one in the UK for its type, and it's in our home city. It's in London, so we always knew we could get the cast and crew, especially at times like this with COVID. We just knew we could get everyone in that one space together, and really, really chuffed. I think someone on the team might be a little bit more chuffed than me though, Mr. Hartland.
Yeah, I've been wanting to have a film in Fright Fest for as long as I've wanted to make a film. So just to kind of think that it's 2 weeks away it just doesn't feel real. But yeah, really exciting.
So you guys past attendees?
No, well, Jared, you are, but the rest of us, we've failed to make it.
Yeah, I was part of there was Killer Weekend was in 2018. I was a sort of a small part of that machine, but it was lovely. Like that's the last time I've been to the festival, so excited to go back. Yeah, be amongst people.
Well, and that's going to be the strangest thing, isn't it? It's going to be a trial by fire experiment, I think. But it is. For those that haven't read up on the film yet, in a nutshell, without giving away too many spoilers, what is When the Screaming Starts about?
Sure. Do you want me to take this?
Yeah,
so you're quite good at this.
Am I? I'm really not. Definitely don't build it up. So When the Screaming Starts is a mockumentary about an aspiring serial killer and the inept filmmaker, really, who's following him around on his journey. I've heard someone describe it as Louis Theroux meets the Manson family, which I thought was pretty appropriate for it.
Where did the idea for the film come from?
Well, I was reviewing the Ted Bundy tapes for the London Horror Society, and it was a really strange kind of experience watching this horrendous series and not being able to look away at all, and then thinking, what does that say about me, and what does it say about all of these people that are watching it? And I started to kind of want to make something about an aspiring serial killer, but it was kind of meeting up with Conor to talk about various projects, and he kind of pushed this idea of it being a mockumentary, a kind of black comedy version of the Ted Bundy tapes.
What do you think it is though about serial killers that people do find so fascinating? Because like Netflix and places are always full of a new documentary about this killer or that killer. Even at Fright Fest is No Man of God, which is again about Ted Bundy. Why do you think that we do all have this sort of strange fascination with these terrible people?
It's just something that we've talked about a lot over the last kind of couple of years, just because kind of making a film about a serial killer or someone who's aspiring to be a serial killer. And I think a lot of us had very different kind of answers. But I think for me, a lot of it was down to that fear of the unknown and kind of stretching that unknown out to the people that are closest to you, particularly kind of taking Ted Bundy tapes into consideration. But there were a load of people who thought they knew him and thought he was this good person, and actually they discovered he wasn't. There was this monster kind of hiding behind someone who seemed mild-mannered and intelligent and charming. And for me, I think it's that fear.
Conor, Jared, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think the same. I just like with the film, I think there's a lot of kind of like origin stories like these. That kind of says sort of how they kind of get into this, which I think what's great, if I can say, is what's great about When the Screaming Starts is that it is like an origin story, but it's not you're not seeing the situation of why Aidan really wants to become an aspiring serial killer as such. Like, it's not his, we're not kind of focusing on his upbringing as such. It's more just this kind of weird obsession with fame, and kind of almost commenting now with the way kind of social media is, and all these other apps like TikTok and YouTube Shorts and stuff, that almost everyone kind of wants to become a celebrity. And it's just Aidan's kind of twisted way of rather than trying to just, I don't know, create little short videos, he's actually wanting to delve into this serial killer world and find his fame and like mark on the world that way, in a dark way.
Yeah, completely agree. I mean, those guys have covered it really well. I mean, from my point of view, it was that as well. It was this guy who wants to be somebody, and he's obviously very twisted and sick, but he has got an ambition. And obviously that can be echoed by the filmmaker himself, Norman Graysmith, played by Jared. So I was, really interested in the individual. So I was really interested in this character of Aidan and his approach. It's like you could swap out that ambition to be an influencer, a celebrity of some description, and it would still be the same. It's just this quest for fame, the quest to be somebody at any cost, really, and how far someone's willing to go to achieve that. That's what really stood out to me on the initial draft that Ed sent me.
And I mean, the film has this lovely sort of wry humour to it, like, it's a mockumentary. But I'm guessing, sorry, I have a cat that is gate crashing this interview. What tricks did you guys, employ on set to make sure that the jokes stayed fresh? Because obviously, you go through so many takes, and you don't want those jokes to become lost.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, we were always very loving the cat, by the way. We were always quite open to just chopping something when it didn't work, and that was on set. That was before we got on set. That was in the edit. If it wasn't funny, we cut it. And actually, we cut a lot of scenes that we personally found very funny, but maybe they didn't land quite as well, or they were just slowing down the story. On set, I think we did a fair bit of improvisation. I mean, we always had the script. I think we always filmed, every scene pretty much. But then once we had that in the can, we would try out different things. I'd let the actors go, get a little bit more free with it. Our DP, Adrian Musto, he's very used to filming documentaries. So we had that sort of flexibility. He would just follow the action. I wouldn't tell him always when to punch in, when to pan across. He just had to sort of instinctively feel it for a lot of the takes. So yeah, it was a lot of fun. I mean, I did ruin a few takes, as these guys know. I'm quite notorious for laughing and ruining takes, which is a real weakness I need to work on.
I guess Ed, obviously you were involved in the writing process. Did you always know that you wanted to play Aidan, or was it something that came along towards the end?
I knew I wanted to play Aidan, but I did feel for a long time that maybe someone else could. And the more that Conor and I worked on the script, the more Aidan started to gather little traits of my own. And mostly due to
Don't
Conor.
Incriminate yourself, Ed. This is being recorded.
The more legal obsessions that he has with horror films. So it kind of got to a point where it felt right that it was me. And yeah, it was a very strange thing to kind of be writing a film and thinking, well, I'm going to be playing that character. So I tried not to think of it at all until I just turned up on set and had to do the lines.
And Jared, at what point did you get involved, and what was it about Norman that you thought, yeah, I can give this character a good go?
I think that was like a few months after, when sort of Conor and Ed had been talking about this idea, sort of like mid 2019 or whenever it was. I don't know. I think maybe from the filmmaking sort of side of things, that how we all make films and that, and I don't know, just the fact that he wants to be this. It's almost like a Louis Theroux, like kind of, he's just like a really sort of low budget Louis Theroux, and just when you see it so many times, like with The Office, like with David Brent, and so many other kind of characters like that want to be successful, but they just don't. I don't know, that their obsession is more with the fame over the amount of work that it takes, and it's just, he's so very slapdash. And what I didn't know before I accepted the role was that I wasn't going to be able to have a haircut for about a year and a half. So it's so that hair you see is not a wig. That is my own hair. So it's been nice to have a trim, and I know that everything is picture locked. And yeah.
Never say never, Jared. We might call you back for something. To grow that bad boy back out.
I mean, the film is told mainly through the lens of, you know, the fly in the wall documentary sort of style. You know, what prompted the decision to film in that way, and what advantages did it present in terms of shooting?
We always knew it was a mockumentary documentary. So there is that sort of iconic style of mockumentary implicit, you know. We wanted to capture that because it can be quite funny, you know. The camera almost becomes a character, you know, the little punches in at the right moment, the little pans across. I mean, it did give me a lot of freedom personally as a director. In the past, I've always been someone who storyboards, and you know, I can chuck them out and wing it on the day as well. But with this film, I didn't really storyboard anything, and it's just having that flexibility, having Adrian with me, and just getting into a space a little bit more like a real documentary, I guess, and working out the frame in there. And again, giving the characters a bit of freedom to play and not be too confined by the blocking. You know, that was really interesting. And I think I'm going to miss it, actually. If on the next one, it's probably not going to be a mockumentary, and I'm going to miss that freedom with that style.
I mean, there's this great scene in the film where Aidan's sort of auditioning people to sort of help him in his quest. You know, everybody that, you know, is there is a very certain type of character. They're all different personality types. You know, I imagine, was your casting process similar to that scene?
Our casting process was who was free and who was available at the time. Most of them are our friends, to be honest. We were very lucky. We all went to Arts Ed, us three. That's where we met. It's a drama school, and we've got a really big network of actors through there. And then just having been making short films and sketches and stuff for years, we've kind of accumulated a lot of actors. We did audition a couple. I think Caitlin, who plays Claire, and a few other roles we did audition for. But a lot of the time it was just trusting people, looking at show reels, knowing that they could deliver on the day. But yeah, we know a lot of hilarious people, fortunately for us.
And I mean, it must help the fact that you do know them, because obviously, you know, some actors can get a bit shy about, you know, going to, you know, doing something silly or doing something, you know, overtly dramatic. So I guess it's quite nice that, you know, you do have that rapport with them, and you know that, you know, no one's going to be judging anybody.
Massive, great having these two. Obviously, two of my close friends as the two leads, and obviously they're producers as well. So, you know, there was no need to be really polite or tread on eggshells. It was just like, you know, straight to the point. Almost gets to a point where you don't even need to give direction. You're just kind of like nodding, and the other person knows what you mean.
I mean, the other thing that sort of stands out is, you know, within the first couple of minutes, you've got these epic, like Bond-esque opening titles. You know, why did you?
I'll take that.
On the poster.
It's like a macabre sort of Bond with skulls and black cats and things. You know, where did that idea come from? Because it's not something that you'd necessarily expect from a mockumentary type film.
I think personally, it was we always wanted a sort of true crime opening, and I think we kind of have that just before that sequence with the sort of news section, and then tonally it's quite a tricky film at points. So we wanted to do something that was kind of true crime-esque, but also encapsulated the fun and the quirkiness. So it was kind of this, for me, it was a fusion of true crime and the mockumentary vibe. Plus we had, I think, you know, fantastic music from Green Lung, which is just so energetic and fun that we needed something to to sort of visually accompany that. Yeah, that's kind of how it spawned for me. How about you guys, Jared and Ned? What were your thoughts on the?
I just thought, I mean, I know as well, like True Detective was like a big inspiration. Just the some of the sort of the pieces they have in that. But I love it. Yeah, it's just so epic, and it kind of, I think, it just, we wanted something, as like Conor said, just something to really draw just the audience in from the get go, and just because it was a really hard thing. Some of the characters that kind of get revealed later, we kind of wanted to give them a bit of an introduction, a bit of a nod, but without giving sort of too many spoilers away too quickly. It just wanted like a little glimmer of the kind of the action and the danger that is sort of to come later on in the story.
I think Conor touched on it with saying it was tonally, you have this fusion in the film, and the word that we kept using throughout the whole thing was this hybrid. So it's, hybrid of horror and comedy, hybrid of mockumentary, but also wanting something that felt cinematic. And I think that was something with the opening titles. We really wanted to get that feeling that it's a mockumentary, a kind of true crime mockumentary, but it's also, this is cinematic. We wanted it to be on a big screen, like it will be at Fright Fest, and to look at home there.
And shout out to Mark at Loftworks who did that, because he brought a lot to the table as well, ideas wise. We had this team at Loftworks and they were just fantastic, and sort of took our ideas and just brought them to a whole nother level. So
yeah, it's a great way to start the film. I think in many ways, although they're very, very different films, it reminded me a lot of another Fright Fest film that played a few years ago called Double Date. Don't know if you guys are familiar with that one, but it's got Danny Morgan sort of wrote and starred in it, and Benjamin Barfoot directed it. And it's about like a 30-year-old virgin whose friend tries to get him laid before his 30th birthday, and the girls they pick up end up being serial killers. They're sisters who are going around killing people for some weird sort of like occult reason. And it's a very British sort of comedy horror, and I think that this film sort of embraces that spirit as well. I mean, what do you think it is about us Brits that we can sort of mix comedy and horror so well?
I think for me, it's that a lot of the kind of good British comedy that we were talking about when we were kind of working on this, one of them being The Office. I know The Office, not really a horror, but it's that kind of, it walks that knife edge between being just really funny and just making you want to curl up into a ball because it's so cringy. And I think it's kind of that there's a kind of tradition with British comedy where it does walk that kind of fine line, and we've just maybe replaced the cringe with something quite dark. And I think it's not really, if this was set in America, it could be much more epic in terms of scope, and we might not have that kind of small intimate moments that we have with Norman and Aidan, particularly early on in the film. Whereas being in the UK, everything's just a bit smaller, so it can be that little bit more intimate before we go off into these dark territories.
Yeah, we definitely wanted, I think the word we kept on using for like production design and cinematography was, a lot of it we wanted to be quite drab, but it's the hybrid. We wanted to infuse these cinematic moments where we have these big showdowns and whatever else, and these really cinematic locations, and then we'll have these like really, really drab scenes in a granny house. And I think it's important to lean into the Britishness of this film. It'd be very easy to just get carried away and make it more epic, I guess. But I think, seeing as the character was based on Ed, we had to lean into what we had. And I mean, a lot of that, I should say, actually stemmed from locations that we had. We had the granny house that kind of was a massive turning point for the film. We just realized, serial killer in a granny house. That's quite funny. That's quite unique. And then we just really lent into it from there.
I mean, I think Conor and Jared, you both technically have 2 films showing at Fright Fest this year. You both pop up in The Kindred. Are you slowly trying to take over Fright Fest this year?
I would say if I don't know, have you seen Screen? Okay, I mean, I don't know if you really see me in the film. I was only in it because Conor needed little Easter egg. Conor needed a ride to the location. They were filming in Brighton at the time, and his car was in up for repairs, and it was quite a late night shoot. He needed to be there, so I just offered and said, I'll give you a lift. I can hang about outside, or just hang about on set. And yeah, they roped me in to play a very minor role. So that I'd say is my Conor's. Absolutely, he's in it. He's got lines and is a character in it. But mine is loosely loosely involved.
That's it. There's no idle hands on an indie film, is there? You're going to get roped in somehow. Jared definitely got roped in. Still appreciate that, mate. Thank you for doing that.
Of course.
I mean, kind of, how was your experience working on that? Obviously, I think you've got these 2 films, and obviously one of them you're behind the camera, and one of them you're in front of the camera.
Yeah, I mean, I'm really chuffed, to be honest. I think obviously I've been acting a long time as well as directing with these guys. For when the Screamer starts, first feature, I just knew there's no way I wanted to put myself in front of the camera. It was a discussion we had at times, but I mean, directing was stressful enough, so I wouldn't want to put myself through that torture of trying to act. I don't know how these guys did it alongside producing, to be honest. But yeah, The Kindred was great. I mean, it's a great team. The director, Jamie, he's just he's a machine. He's made so many features. The guy's prolific and across all different genres. And we had a really good time. We got to briefly meet James Cosmo, who's a real inspiration. Robbie G was in it. I got to work with him. He's one of my favorite actors he was in Snatch and many other films. Yeah, I had a great time, but the overriding memory, Jared, I'm not sure about you. We did some night shoot. We were there until about 4 a.m. and oh my God, I've never heard so many seagulls. I think it might have inspired a new horror film, something like The Birds or something. Just these crazy seagulls all night. I just couldn't sleep.
It was a sound recordist nightmare. I don't know. I'd be interested to hear those scenes.
Probably been some screams or something, and
yeah, that's it.
Stored away for a future horror film. I mean, obviously, Fright Fest pass holders are, the tickets go on sale for those for Discovery Screens tomorrow. So they're all frantically trying to plan what they're going to watch, when they're going to watch it. What are they going to get from this film that they might not get from some of the other films that are on the roster?
For me, I think it's hopefully we'll be offering a lot of comedy and fun, but there will still be plenty of darkness. There will still be those horror moments, and again, something very uniquely British and off the wall. And I like to think it's quite unique. So yeah, we'll be very interested to see what the Fright Fest audience think of it.
Jared, your thoughts?
Ed, you want to go first?
Thanks for throwing me under the bus there. Yeah, I think it's always difficult going after Conor because that was really good. But I think what we bring is something that's dark and funny, and there aren't too many films on at Fright Fest, I feel, that have a black metal band thrown in for no other reason than we just quite like the idea of it. So there you go. We've got blood, laughter, and black metal.
Yeah, I think yeah. Just to finish things off, I think you've Fright Fest audience has probably seen so many Netflix and whatever other streaming service over the last year. So many true crime, so many stories about serial killers. So this is like an opportunity to see not only the origin story, but a story about an aspiring serial killer, and a chance to have some laughs, to have some fun, and see some, without giving any spoilers, some rather gruesome deaths at times. So if that's your thing, it's not, out and out blood. So if people that, don't like 100% blood, it's not that, but there are some really, I'd say, gruesome, that Sophie, our makeup and kind of special effects, has done a great job in making some very brutal deaths.
Well, thank you guys for talking to me, and thanks for getting that song back stuck in my head. I sort of tried to forget about it for a couple of days, and you said black metal, and I can see the video now, and I can hear the woman singing. So yeah,
I can only apologise.